Am I the asshole for resenting my mentally handicapped sister? The title might make me sound awful, but please hear me out. My younger sister is severely autistic. She requires constant care and supervision nearly 24/7 and cannot be left alone. She is completely nonverbal and incapable of taking care of herself. Despite being only 12 years old, she is extremely destructive and often violent. She destroys everything she gets her hands on. I know this might sound wrong to say, but I hate her. And the worst part is, it doesn't even feel wrong. When she was born, I was only 6 years old. From that moment onward, I've never had my parents' undivided attention. My entire world shifted to revolve around her, and I've been playing second fiddle ever since. When I was just 7 years old, I was forced to give up my bedroom so she could be closer to my parents. They moved me into the basement without much consideration for how I felt about it. As a child, all of my toys were eventually destroyed by her. Anytime I complained or cried about it, my parents completely dismissed me. Even when I was 14 and she destroyed the MacBook my school provided me for assignments, my parents blamed me. To make matters worse, I've essentially been forced into the role of a third parent. I am expected to take care of her at a moment's notice, no matter what I'm doing or how it affects me. I can never make plans with my friends because my parents need me to be available. And even if I do manage to carve out a bit of time for myself, I am immediately required to drop everything if they call me. If I don't comply, I get punished. A recent example of this happened when I went to watch the new Spider-Man movie. I turned off my phone during the show to avoid interruptions. But when I got home, I was grounded for being unreachable. I feel like I'm nothing more than a caretaker to them. Anything involving me or my achievements is completely overshadowed by her. Just last week, I was selected to give a speech at a major school event. I was so excited and proud, and my parents promised they would be there to support me. But as usual, they didn't show up. Their excuse? My sister. Moments like these are countless. Every time something special happens for me, she takes priority. For years, I've held in my resentment, but today, it finally spilled over. I was talking to my dad about college plans when he made an offhand joke, saying I should get a high-paying degree so I could afford to take care of my sister when they're gone. I don't know why, but that was my breaking point. I snapped. I broke down crying and started screaming at him. I told him how I feel like everything is always about her. I told him I feel like a slave to her and that they've never once prioritized me or my happiness. I shouted that I refuse to spend my life as her caretaker. Since then, I've locked myself in my room. My parents haven't checked on me or tried to speak to me. I feel like a horrible person for exploding like that, but at the same time, I don't know if I can keep living this way. After reflecting on this situation, I've realized that I don't actually despise my sister. It's not her fault that she was born this way. My resentment stems from my parents' actions or lack thereof, and the way they've handled everything. A few hours after my breakdown, my parents finally came to talk to me. But I couldn't bring myself to have a proper conversation with them. I just cried and begged them to leave me alone. They've since made arrangements for me to stay with my grandfather for the time being, and I'm currently packing to go to his house. We've all agreed that it's best for me to take some space and time to process my emotions. Later this week, we plan to sit down as a family and have an honest conversation about everything. I'm nervous, but I hope it leads to some real changes. After that day, I moved in with my grandfather. The week that followed has been nothing short of life-changing, both for better and for worse. Let me try to break it down. The first thing I did was tell my grandfather everything that had been going on, why I broke down, what my life had been like, and how my parents had been using me as an unpaid caretaker for my sister. To say he was horrified would be an understatement. No one in my extended family knew the extent of what my parents had been putting me through. My grandfather revealed something that left me stunned. My sister was supposed to be receiving professional care due to her condition, care that my parents had been neglecting entirely. Furthermore, I was never supposed to be responsible for her at all. With her mental state, it's a danger to both her and others for someone untrained like me to handle her care. But that wasn't all. Over the next few days, other family members reached out to me after hearing what had been happening. They told me things my parents had hidden from me, like the fact that my father had been accepting money from relatives, money that was supposed to be paying for a caretaker who didn't even exist. It felt like my entire world was crumbling around me. It's been a rough week, no doubt about it. But amidst all the revelations and heartbreak, I've also felt an overwhelming amount of love from my extended family, love I hadn't realized I was missing. My grandfather has been making it his mission to help me enjoy the childhood I lost. He encouraged me to spend time with my friends, do things I enjoy, and just breathe for once. My aunts and uncles have been checking in on me constantly, making sure I feel supported. Then came Saturday night, the night I sat down with my parents to talk. Let's just say, it didn't go well. My parents admitted to everything, the lies, the money, the neglect. But they didn't apologize, not once. Instead, they doubled down on their belief that I somehow owed my sister my time, my energy, and even my future. My father even said the words that will haunt me forever: "You were put here to be her caretaker." I won't pretend I stayed composed. I confronted them about everything: the lack of a real caretaker, the money my father had taken from his sister, and everything else I'd learned. They denied some things, made excuses for others, and in the end, we left that conversation in an even worse place than before. That night, I made a decision. I'm not going back. After talking with my grandfather and uncle, I've decided to move in with my grandfather permanently. Later today, we went to my parents' house to collect my things. My uncle came along to help, and I made sure to grab all the important documents I might need: my birth certificate, social security card, and any other records. My parents didn't say much during the process. My dad left with my sister shortly after we arrived, and my mom hovered silently as we moved my things out. But just as we were leaving, my mom broke down. She told me she loved me and that she would miss me. I hugged her and said goodbye, but I couldn't help wondering if she really meant it. After a week of silence, after everything that's happened, why wait until the very end to say those words? I hope she was sincere. I really do. But for now, I need to look ahead. I've made up my mind to move on. When I graduate high school, I'm planning to leave the state for college and start fresh. My aunt, who had been sending money to my parents under the pretense of funding a caretaker, has decided to send that money to me instead. That alone will make a huge difference in building a future for myself. And most importantly, I've come to a realization. I don't hate my sister. In fact, I love her with all my heart. My resentment was never about her, it was about the way my parents treated me because of her. I know now that projecting my anger onto her was wrong, and someday, I hope I can make it up to her. But for now, I need distance. I need to heal. We've officially finished moving my things to my grandfather's house. Everything I wanted to take is here, and I feel lighter already. My parents were quiet the whole time, and the final goodbye with my mom was emotional, though complicated. I hope one day we can reconnect, but for now, I need space.